それでは皆様お待たせいたしました。
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Now we would like to move on to the next session, and we would like to introduce the speakers who will be coming up to the stage. Associate Professor, Faculty of Policy Management, Keio University, Shonan Fujisawa Campus, Senior Research Fellow, the Canon Institute of Global Studies, Mr. Ken Jimbo. Professor, Faculty of Economics, the University of Tokyo, Professor Noriyuki Yanagawa. President and Public Policy Planning and Consulting, Mr. Eiji Hara. Project Associate Professor, Department of Technology Management for Innovation Graduate School of Engineering, the University of Tokyo, Professor Yutaka Matsuo. So, speakers and Professor Takenaka, could you please walk up to the stage? Thank you very much for the introduction. So these are truly a leading edge experts in this field, and I also have the personal the association with all of these people. So no need to introduce them to you. So for the 10 minutes each, we would like each of you to make the presentation. First of all, Mr. Jimbo, please. Thank you very much. From Keio University, my name is Jimbo, and in the breakout session, the city and the social infrastructure and the fourth industrial revolution. So I would like to serve as the facilitator for that breakout session. But during this discussion, I would like to propose some of the ideas as the platform of the discussion. And my area of the expertise is the diplomacy and the national security. So with that viewpoint, I have a strong interest in the city and the countermeasure against the terrorism. In the past 6 months, I devoted most of my energy on the North Korean situation. But today, I'd like to change my perspective a little bit so that I will be more focused on this particular topic of new city and city development as well as social infrastructure. As Professor Takenaka mentioned, the concept of fourth industrial revolution, Industry 4.0, was introduced, and I know that all of the people in the audience know about this word. So in the 19th century, there was a first industrial revolution, and followed by a second industrial revolution, and then third industrial revolution, characterized by automation, and then we are entering into fourth industrial revolution. And keywords were already mentioned and defined by Mr. Endo. So digital world and the physical world has to be fused, and it is proceeding quickly at the amazing speed. So that is the basis of the understanding. To be more specific, in the real world and the so-called digital cyber world, how are they connected? So that's important perspective. But our daily life goes on every day, step by step. But our lifestyle, our life, in many ways are turned into digitals and the data, and they are taken up as a big data, and the control of a big data will result in the usage of the data, which will be fed back to the society as a whole. So this entire cycle is quite important. As Mr. Endo mentioned, which was quite impressive, was that importance is to return this back to the physical real world, and that initiates the change in the society. So in that sense, for example, manufacturing, production, the delivery of goods and services has to be efficiently customized. That is what we can achieve. And also we expose the information and return the information back to the society so that we can enhance the convenience in our daily life. And by so doing, in many ways, in society, there may be the assets and properties that remain stagnant, but it could be used in the sharing economy. So that's another important aspect. So this is the impact sector by sector. In the manufacturing sector, probably you already know this. as part of your work. But the automated production and the mass production is now switching to more mass customized production, which can be done in the more efficient way. So which will be explained later on. But the fintech changed the financial industry as well, particularly small size and the settlement of the payment, as well as the credit and the enhancement in the small case, and also the precision medicine, customized medicine, and also genome information are quite important keywords for medical application. So the medical services can be offered in a more customized way, and the living environment, smart home, is one way to change your living environment. And as for the retail industry, and also financial services, well, it will be more smaller in size. And also adaptive learning and MOOC are the new approaches for the education. So 20 years from now, I don't know if my university I belong to will remain unchanged. I'm not quite sure. So this shows, the GDP was pushed up, and the economic benefit is also big with the Industry 4.0. If we take this movement as a positive change, and the Japanese society changes and Japanese industries change in the proactive manner, then the 30 trillion yen is the actual benefit we can get. But if we miss the opportunity, we may not be able to enjoy this benefit. And sharing economy back in 2020s, well, it's going to be as big as 60 billion. So the service, sharing of the service, the sharing of the goods as well as space, well, including everything, the sharing economy size will be 60 billion. And now, today's topic, city. So how will this impact on city? So this is the kind of image that we envisaged as we look towards the future. So the physical world will be more enhanced with the taller buildings, with the aircrafts, airborne vehicles, which were unimaginable in the future. However, what we should envisage as the fourth the Industrial Revolution should look like this, rather than the image in the previous slide. So in our living environment, economic activities, medicine, and the lifestyles, all these will be more closely connected and visualized based upon the data. And the best solution can be given as the benefit of this smart city. So that is the question is whether we can enjoy that function and benefit in the society or not. That's going to be a major question. So there are specific examples. For example, the city and the social infrastructure back in 20th century is something that we know quite well. For example, the city should have a good hard infrastructure based upon which our life was established and fully guaranteed. And the government was expected to provide their services and securities and also safety as well. That resulted in the regulation and also vested interests. That these are the characteristics of the infrastructure and society in the 20th century. However, the new city, new infrastructure, well, there will be many infrastructure which cannot be classified, and these will be regarded as a source of growth. So when the foreign people come to Tokyo, what they expect is, well, how Tokyo is connected to internet and digital devices, and whether it is shared in an open manner. So that is one of the attractiveness. So it should be slow internet, but it should be based upon the large size, the communication capacity to facilitate faster communication. And another important aspect of infrastructure is how the city is transparent when it comes to the exchanging the data and communication. Of course, the sharing information by companies are important, but also the public entities, public institutions should work closely with the private sector entities and share data, so that the crisis management, the security, as well as the social services will become more attractive and beneficial to the citizens. That is another important aspect. So what is listed here are the new definition of a new society and a new city. and the Ministry of Internal Affairs towards 2020, they came up with the action plan to realize the world's highest level of ICT towards 2020. Actually, this is the combination or the summary of bits and pieces of different actions, but we need to take this as the comprehensive manner. So the city infrastructure in the 20th century, well, of course, we will be able to renew this and enhance this, what we already have for the crime prevention, for example, or when we experienced the great East Japan, the earthquake, well, the people used the mobile phones or the emails. These are the devices that people used for the communication. However, in the most recent disaster, it is changing, and we have to take these changes into consideration to be prepared. And the linking the 20th century infrastructure and the infrastructure of the future. So in the remaining time, I'd like to raise some of the issues and the discussion point. So the society and the cities are supposed to move towards these new generation. And however, Japan has its own problem. And one issue is aging of the society, the quite provocative issue for the older generation. So as we face the technical revolution, well, it may be difficult for the older generation to fully enjoy the benefit of the recent technology. For example, the smartphones are not fully utilized by the older people, and also the 97% of the young generation is using SNS. However, the older people, well, the ratio is only 30%. That is the use of SNS. So the generational gap is one point. And second, the issue or the point I want to raise is the people's sense of anxiety and uncertainty about exposing and the making the personal data available for the various purposes. So we want to have a good control over our personal information, but maybe as a society we have to change our mindset. Well, to make the personal information available. Actually, this is the name of the movie, which actually features this point about the exposure of the personal information. And then cashless economy, as you may know, India, China, and they are really cashless. When I went to Dalian and I went to the basement, there are many shops, and most of the retailers, they use Alibaba's payment system. So even at every corner of the small city, well, they are actually making the leapfrog to be switching to the cashless economy, even though Japan is still a heavily cash-based society. So I'm saying that the data is important. However, we are not developing the good infrastructure to handle that. So are we able to fully utilize the data when the service and the management and the risk management is not sufficient? And the last issue is the lack of talents and the personnel, the expertise and experts. So we have to have the people who can initiate the innovation. And the question is how society and university can develop and nurture such people. So with this, I'd like to conclude my presentation. Thank you very much.
Hi.
Thank you very much. That was a very stimulating, very comprehensive presentation. In the morning session, we talked about 2035 Tokyo's vision, led by Professor Ichikawa. So Professor Ichikawa-san has lots to say. Please share that in the brainstorming. Now I'd like to ask Yanagawa-san to follow.
Thank you very much. This is Yanagawa. This is the brainstorming. So it is not that I'm going to make the presentation one way, but I'd like to raise some the discussion points. And this is about how we work and work style. And there are some new the improvement that we have been talking about, the change of the society, change of the cities. The way we work should also change. However, well, I urge all of you to consider how many of you think that your work style, your way of working is changing. Well, because we are talking about the gap, the income gap among the different types of people, or the loss of jobs. And also the government is talking about the work style reform. However, we are still facing with the overtime and the working for many the long hours. So that is the current issue we are facing, and I'd like to strike a balance when it comes to brainstorming. But initially, first of all, I would like to look at this topic of way that we work from a broader perspective. What can we do? Because technology is changing so much. So to what extent we can change the way we work style, because technology is proceeding so much. So we should be able to change the way we work. And talking about our life, let's say smartphone was born 10 years ago. And in the past 10 years, our lifestyle has changed quite significantly. Well, we actually use the smartphone type device for the questionnaire survey, and probably when you came here, you must have used the Google Map, and it is hard to imagine how we could survive without smartphones in the past, without smartphone. So that means it is quite natural that we expect some changes, significant changes when it comes to our way of working. So looking at that particular issue, what is changing? So now we have mobile devices and acquired mobility. That's a very big, important step that we experienced. So I went to cafe downstairs, and the people with PCs and they may be they're writing an email, or maybe they having good time with SNS, but many of them should be working as well. And so coming to the office, all the people they are working in the one same place. They may be changing. So if we make a step forward, just like we did, do we need to commute to one place and commute to come to our office? Time card, maybe it may not be no longer used, but are we going to stick to this old way of working? So is it necessary to come to the office to begin with? Or is it necessary for all of us, the people of the company, to get together and work in one same place? Or the working hours is until when, and then after that it is the after hours. Do we need to make distinction between these two? Legally speaking, it may be difficult to handle the ambiguity of working hours. But still, how many hours are supposed to be working hours out of the day? Is it possible to define certain time of the day as a working time? Or are we able to make our day into smaller bits of segments and fragments of time, and do the work and handle multiple jobs simultaneously? For example, many of my colleagues are university professors, but Matsuo-san, Jimbo-san, well, most of their works are outside of the university, I guess. So using bits and pieces of the time out of the day, they are engaged in multiple jobs. And even corporate employees, they should be able to do so, because they will no longer be bound by the time and space. And as we expand this observation, this should lead to significant change of our work style and the way we work. So, and the company, which is the organization where the people are supposed to get together and work together, that should also change. Talking about fintech, as you may know, by using blockchain, automatically the corporate the organization will be handled and created. So the entity called a company or the corporations may disappear. It may no longer be necessary. Or it may not be the place where people come together physically to work together. Or a company is called a going concern. So it is supposed to be a long-standing, enduring entity. It is regarded as natural definition. However, is it possible for a company to remain a going concern as the technology continues? There may be an entity or there may be an organization with finite or the defined limited time period. It could be based upon the project. In which case, we may become more flexible when it comes to the way we work, and the definition of the company may become more ambiguous. Then relationship between company and the individual may change. So it is not within the limited scope of the work style balance or the work style, but we can take a look at this from a broader point of view, in terms of the relationship between individuals and companies. Well, in Japan, companies are supposed to be the major part of your life. It is a source of your identity. It is your community. It may be the only place for you to receive education. However, if that changes, what will be your identity, or which community do you belong to? And between the company and individuals, what kind of relationship should be established? So that will clearly defined relationship should lead to the better understanding about the way we work. And I talked about the doing multiple jobs. So now we are supposed to belong to one organization, one company, but is it going to be over? Or now, or in the past, it was natural that the person belongs to only one company and work for the company, but they could may turn out to be a exceptional engagement from a broader perspective, and they are to work and to live and to enjoy the leisure time. Well, the demarcation or the classification may become more ambiguous, and including self-realization, and enjoyment of life, if that's possible in the next society, that's what we have to consider. And that means we are going to have broader alternatives and more choices, so that we can realize the multiple the ambitions. However, so this is the big wave. And are we able to say that this is actually what is happening, and I'm enjoying that, the other people are also enjoying that? Are we saying so? No, that is not the case, and we are not able to feel this kind of benefit yet. So in the latter half of the brainstorming, I hope we will discuss why we are not able to enjoy the fruit of this the liberty, so to speak. Well, the one big issue is the income gap. As technology develops, there will be people who can benefit out of that, who can make a lot of money by acquiring the digital the know-how and expertise, but other people may not be able to enjoy that benefit. So this is not the place where I should say which is good or which is bad. And I'm not in a position to give any answer to this question, but I hope this is going to be the topic of discussion. It may be difficult to arrive at the conclusion or the answer at the very end of the brainstorming, but why do we have this issue today? So we expect future to be bright, but still it appears quite difficult to achieve that. And it is not often discussed. So why is it, and what shall we change, and in what way can we do this? Is it the political issue? The politicians are to blame? It's easy to say so. However, maybe that is not the only solution. Of course, politics are important. But all of us, all of you, and all the companies, what do they think? And what does the government think? And what the individuals are supposed to think? That's what we also need to explore. And this kind of discussion was done at the companies, the corporations, talking about the industry and the 4.0. That's what the companies have been advocating and talking about. But how about the individuals? And to realize the political ambition, are there any way that the corporations can do? And also if a government sets certain target, or the government instructed the companies to do certain things, but we should involve individuals as well, not just the government and the corporations. Each one of us, what shall we do? what do we want to do? How do we want to work? So let's think about it and do the effective brainstorming. So these are the points I wanted to raise for the brainstorming session.
Thank you very much for giving us food for thought. And regarding work style reform, it's been promoted by government, and there seems to be a big gap with the government and what you're thinking. We have high expectations for the brainstorming. Next, we'd like to move on to the topic of the sharing economy. Hara-san, please. This is Hara speaking. Very happy to be here today. I am involved in policy consultation, and I'm also providing support to the government in terms of deregulation. So I am not so much focused on the future, but I'm doing the practical work in terms of policy formulation. So where I'm coming from may be different to the other facilitators, but I would like to give you an overview about the level of government administration today. But before that, let me give you an explanation regarding the sharing economy. There are 3 phases, 1, 2, and 3. This is over time. First is the traditional society. So we could be sharing resources when it's not used, where there be tools or it could be houses. This has occurred in society. And what is important here is the relationship of trust in the community. With the modernization, we go to phase number 2. This is replaced by business services or commercial services. The places where you stay, accommodation, will become the apartment for rent as well as hotels. In terms of mobility, it includes taxis as well as rent-a-cars. So there is a clear demarcation between the business and consumers. This is phase number 2. What is important is trust toward the business owners. And government must ensure, guarantee the trust of the business owners. This is the second phase of modernization. A sharing economy is phase 3 in this picture. The temporary leasing of resources is revived using technologies once again. What is at the foundation is not the trust relationship amongst the people in the community, but the smartphones will enable this process. With the evaluation system, we can ensure trust amongst the individuals. In the traditional framework, the evaluation was accumulated over time. But now, in this modern age, the evaluation can be made using smartphones, and the information can be accumulated instantaneously. And the result of evaluation from other parties can be used for the selection to be made by the consumers. Using this framework, it's not the relationship amongst individuals, but with the smartphones as well as the evaluation system, what was realized in the traditional society can be enabled today. So what will happen to the role of the government in this framework? The phase 2 and phase 3 is compared. On the left-hand side, the quality of service is guaranteed by the regulations of the government. There is also the entry regulations, such as permits as well as approvals, making sure that unscrupulous people will not enter this market. For example, if we are talking about taxis, the taxi drivers must have a certain type of license, and they must receive a certain training before they can become taxi drivers. By so doing, through this regulation, safe taxi service can be ensured. This is the current system we have today. The sharing economy on the right-hand side is not regulated by the government, but it is mutual evaluation amongst the users. And based on the evaluation, the consumers are able to make selection. This is the essence of the sharing economy. then what will happen to the regulations for entry as well as regulations for behavior? This will go away. And in the sharing economy, the role of the government will undergo change. Within the smartphone-based community, in the new community, on an autonomous basis, it will be checking the service. This is the government's role in the new economy. Therefore, it's not based on regulation, but the government must be responsible for checking whether community is functioning. So a significant change is now underway. However, this significant change is not taking place smoothly. Because there will be the government will be losing the authority which they resist against, and existing industry is afraid of losing business. So they are working together with government. That is the reason why it is hindering the progress in this area. It is occurring elsewhere, but in Japan, this is especially slow. Let me give you an example of minpaku, the home sharing. Airbnb has become prevalent all over the world today. They have been very successful. They set up their business in 2008, but 6 years prior to that, a similar business model was launched. It's not something strange, because in Japan, the old apartment stores tend to be vacant. So there is a need on the part of the owners to utilize the vacancies, and the keys is a problem. Now you can send it to the smartphones, but several years ago it was a major issue. But in Japan, we have the convenience store network, and it can be used as a reception service. And in fact, in Japan, they tried to set up this business, but the obstacle was the inns and hotels laws. So to pursue such a business, you have to be receiving a license as a hotel, and it has to provide a reception service as well. So it's just limited to certain businesses. In the meantime, Airbnb was expanding their business globally, and it was only 2015 when it was permitted. So the preceding company lost their opportunity to become the Airbnb. We have Taka-san from Uber, so in terms of wide share, it cannot be enabled now. Number 3 is sharing of human resources. This is also very important, especially in the area of education. The reason why it's important is that in Japan, the fourth industrialization is very important, but they have to learn things that we did not learn, such as programming. But there is a limit to the number of teachers in this area. So we need to mobilize the people who are working in the front line. But this is a problem because they don't have a license to teach. You can't provide online education. These are obstacles in promoting this objective. Regulatory sandbox was mentioned by Takenaga-san. We are going to create this. It is being prepared at the moment. The very detailed regulations is not the main point. Rather than regulating, it should be ex-post checking system should be introduced. That is the basic essence of the regulatory sandbox in Japan. I would like to talk about the radio law. This is regarding the scarce resource utilization and the legal framework. There are different types. There is joint use in the community. There could be allocation by the national government. And there could be transaction systems using the market mechanism, which is number 2 below. In the area of fishing rights, the old laws from hundreds of years ago are reflected in the current law. I don't have time to elaborate, but in the case of the radio law, it is allocated by the national government, and some people are saying that the frequency auction should be introduced. Other countries in OECD have already adopted the auction system. But while we are discussing this, other countries are going beyond us. And they are talking about the joint use of radio waves. So when it is vacant, it can be used. In the United States, for the bandwidth that is being allocated to the military can be used, can be open to private sector. And when it is necessary by the military, they will be prioritized. Technically, this is possible. The reason why this has been done is because of the fourth industrialization, whether it be IoT or autonomous driving or drones. There is a significant need for new spectrum. So there has to be a better, efficient system of allocation of the spectrum. We talked about the use of face recognition in the airports. Japanese companies is involved in this process in the United States. So we are far behind in Japan. The last point I want to make, I'm sorry to go beyond my allocated time, but I'd like to talk about leapfrog. We are significantly behind. The reason, because of this reason, we can leapfrog. There is an opportunity for Japan as well. Let me talk about some example. The unknown real estate ownership is a major problem. We don't know who is actually owning a certain property. And the Ghana's example can provide the solution. This is a leapfrog case. They didn't have a real estate registration process, but they introduced a registration system which is state-of-the-art using blockchain. Aerial photograph was used to register real estate. I think this is what is required in Japan as well. We are talking about the future. Everyone is focused on the future. So I hope that these areas will be discussed in the brainstorming session to follow. Thank you. Thank you very much. With Hara-san being working in various areas, for example, the strategic economic zone. The fourth industrialization has significant possibilities. In order to realize this in the real world, the vested interests as well as with the government, there is need for battle. Leapfrog is very important. I went to Kenya as well as South Africa, and they are truly leapfrogging today. So we should engage in such debate. Sorry to keep you waiting, Masuo-san. Please discuss the topic of AI. Thank you very much. I'd like to discuss AI. This is from YOLO. Object detection algorithm is being used. It's a scene in a film. You can see that the scenes are recognized. This is phenomenal because the YOLO's algorithm is OpenCV library. It was introduced in the library 2 days ago. What it means by OpenCV is the library that can be used by regular programs. You can install it very quickly and it's very easy to use. And already this level of detection algorithm is already being introduced. I'm going to be talking about deep learning. The algorithm thereof is becoming commoditized very rapidly. I'm sure you have heard about the deep learning with the deep hierarchy networking. The data learning can take place from very complex functions. And the image recognition is an area where this is very promising. And as Takenaka-san has mentioned, 2012 and beyond, deep learning grew significantly in image recognition. The error ratio has been improving very significantly. It's gone beyond human eyes now. Human eyes is currently 5.1%, and it is much lower in terms of error ratio. The recognition level has gone beyond humans. even now, and it can be used in a very simple library that I mentioned earlier. And this technology and robotics can be combined, which is called deep reinforcement learning. This is being adopted in various countries of the world. Robots are picking up objects, and the robots are practicing this process. Above, you can see the image of assembly of parts for a toy, and over time, it improves its capabilities. In the past, the obstacle was image recognition. They were blind, so they didn't know where to pick up the objects in the past. But now they can recognize this, and so they can do a better job in terms of picking up objects. AI is a difficult area, but this point is what I would like to emphasize. It's the birth of the eyes for machines. And in fact, there is a book on this topic. This is regarding the Cambrian explosion. And from the 542 million years ago to 530 million years ago, all the phylum have been created. This is called the Cambrian explosion. And it was a mystery. Although there were many theories, Andre Parker wrote this book, The Birth of the Eye. He said that the Cambrian explosion occurred because the living organism had the eyes for the first time. In the past, without the eyes, they used to be very slow. But now, the tribalite was born, and because they had advantage because they had eyes, they can escape, they can swim faster, they are able to hide, and they are also able to recognize the predator. And by so doing, the diversification of the species has occurred. And the same thing will occur for machines and robots as well. So far, the machines and robots were blind. They were not able to see. So the work that they could do was limited, but going forward, they will have eyes. And therefore, there is a wider range of work that can be conducted by the robots. Image sensors did exist, but that is akin to retina. But we're not just using the retina. The signals are being sent to the visual area to enable vision. And that is the example I gave you earlier. The YOLO's recognition has been enabled. So image sensors and deep learning can be combined, and for the first time, machines are able to see. So what is going to occur as a result of this? What is going to change the most significant is areas of agriculture, construction, as well as the food process, using natural products, and without recognition, it was difficult to automate. But in agriculture, you can have harvest robots. It was not possible in the past because they couldn't recognize the tomatoes for picking. But for rice as well as potatoes, the harvesting equipment occurred. But the eyes were not required because they just have to dress the soil. But for the fruits and vegetables, it still had to be picked by hand. But why is it so? Most of the agriculture work is requiring eyes, such as thinning, as well as the weeding, as well as harvesting, all required human eyes. That is the reason why it was labor intensive. Inclusive of food processing, they are subject to labor shortage. Because the eyes were necessary, they were not able to automate the machine process. That is the reason why they needed humans to perform. But now the machines have eyes. It's going to change. I think cooking robot will be enabled. I don't know if it's 15 years or 20 years, but in the restaurant business, and I'm sure that the kitchen will be using robots because it's a matter of cost reduction. And in medicine as well as caregiving and in all other areas, robots can be introduced. It was performed by humans because of the lack of eyes so far. So it is going to change. And this is going to be very important in medical images. Losing the X-ray is the visual recognition, and machines are going to overcome the doctor's ability. Face recognition will be introduced, as well as expressions can be recognized as well using the eyes, and home securities can be enabled as well. So applications are increasing. Apparently, dementia can be detected 2 years prior because their facial expressions change, even 2 years prior to showing symptoms. So what can be recognized by the human eyes can be recognized by providing data. Even for performance can be evaluated. Comic performance can be evaluated as well by giving data to the machines. So I think recognition was something that was attributed to humans only. But now, going forward, it will be segmented from people and can be reallocated to areas of necessity in society. Where recognition was necessary, there had to always be humans. But it will be dispersed in areas of need only. In the case of engines, spread was similar, because engines replaced the muscles. They belong to animals as well as humans. So it had to be performed by humans as well as animals. But now it can be divided, and it could be divided into society in the form of engines. The same will occur for recognition as well. So it will be reallocated where it is needed. And I think recognition is very advantageous for Japan because it's very related to manufacturing. Image sensors are made by Japanese companies, and machines and robots are made by Japanese companies as well. And agriculture, construction, shortage, and caregiving, all these areas are lacking labor where it can be complemented by machines. So I think there is great opportunity in Japan. But it's still struggling. There are challenges, because there are regulations that we have to consider, and also movement is very slow. Even in companies, decision-making is very slow. Even in the past 2 or 3 years, China is now a deep learning nation, superpower, and it is making even the Americans nervous. But what is happening in Japan? We are still discussing what we are going to initiate. We have to speed up this process. Time is of the essence. So I talked about the possibility of humans, and that's the point I would like to make at the end. I have talked about recognition, but it's not just limited to recognition, because within the intellect we have the ability to recognize the surrounding area, as well as to understand. This is at the basis of intellect, and on top of that, various concepts can be accumulated using language. We can fall in love. Why do we fall in love? Why do we fall? Because falling in love and physically collapsing or falling is similar. That's the reason why. People talk about surmounting difficulty. Because if there is an obstacle in front of us, we have to overcome that. So the human intellect is based on the spatial recognition, first and foremost. So recognizing the surrounding area, and the 3D structure must be recreated. And if you have that, we can have various transformations taking place on top of that once we have this three-dimensional recognition. So I think this process is going to be accelerated going forward. So what is going to be the role of humans in this new world? We will there will be work using AI and robots. Communication with the people will be important, as well as the setting of objectives, as well as value decision is going to be important, because we don't want to have robots go and apologize for any problems occurring between companies. I think they will still expect humans to do that. So what is the job that can only be performed by humans? For humans, the identity was that we had higher intellect, but now this will be lost. Then what is the value of humans in this new world? We have to consider what kind of society we want to aspire for going forward. That is what I have to offer for you to discuss in the brainstorming.
Thank you very much.
松尾さんにはもう私もいろんなことを教えていただいて
Yes, I learned a lot from Matsuo-san, and he talked about this. But there's a cleaning robot today, and the robot can also organize. But well, you have to first of all clean up your room in order for the cleaning robot to be able to clean up the room. So that is a very interesting example of the post-industrial revolution. And now we have to connect that issue with art and artificial intelligence. Well, the coming 40 minutes is going to be a wonderful opportunity. Well, we are going to learn a lot from the leading experts in the coming 40. We just heard the presentation by the leading experts, and we'll be breaking out to different sessions, and there will be resource persons for each of the session. 3-4 people are assigned. And all these people, well, are all as capable as the experts on the stage right now. So these are the people who are active in the particular area of a discussion. And with all of them, we are going to conduct the brainstorming for 75 minutes. And after that, we are going to take a break so that you can exchange your views among yourselves and continue discussion. So the break is a little longer, and then we come back to this room to conduct the roundup and summary session, wrap-up session. So it is still 2:30, and we have a long afternoon. So please enjoy the afternoon session. And it was a very stimulating presentations given by 4 experts. So thank you very much, and ladies and gentlemen, please give them a big round of applause. Thank you very much. Now, we would like to